Welcome to Wild Worcestershire, the podcast from Worcestershire Wildlife Trust. Each episode will explore the wild corners of our county. From ancient woodlands to whispering wetlands, along the way we'll meet the people working to protect these places and uncover the hidden lives of the wildlife that calls them home. This is a space for stories, for connection and for celebrating nature right on our doorstep. So come with us and discover the wild side of Worcestershire. Hello and welcome back to the Wild Worcestershire podcast, brought to you by Worcestershire Wildlife Trust. I'm Lee Robinson, and today we're celebrating something at the very heart of the Trust's work, and that's its volunteers. Across Worcestershire there are more than 450 people volunteering, giving up their time, their energy and their passions to help protect the wildlife and the wild places that we all love. And they do everything, and when I say everything I mean absolutely everything, from rolling up their sleeves for practical conservation work on the reserves to education and engagement, farm support, office admin, and of course there are wildlife sighting volunteers as well. All of them help us understand the wildlife that's around us, and they all help to keep it thriving. So in this episode I'm going to be chatting with some of the people who make all of this possible. First up, I'm talking to Jasmine, who is a member of staff who supports and manages some of our volunteers. She'll give us a behind the scenes look at just how vital they are and what it takes to coordinate such passionate and diverse people. Then we'll hear from Rod, who is a conservation volunteer who spends his time out on our reserves improving habitats and getting hands-on with the land itself. We'll also talk to Diana, who is a wildlife sightings volunteer, whose careful observations help build the data that informs so much of the Trust's conservation decisions. And then finally we'll meet Chris, who's been volunteering since he was young. From building bird boxes to sitting on a committee, he's given a lifetime of dedication to Worcestershire's wild spaces. Together, their stories paint a picture of what volunteering really looks like, why it matters, and how every single role, however big or small, makes a huge difference. So settle in, take a moment to breathe, and let's step into the wonderful world of Worcestershire's Wildlife Trust volunteers.
Hi there, my name is Jasmine and my role is Wildlife and Farming Officer here at Worcestershire Wildlife Trust. It involves a few different things, so I get involved with habitat surveys and species surveys, both on our own land and also land owned privately. And every week I lead the farm volunteers as well, and they're a group that come out and they help us look after Lower Smite Farm, and here is where our headquarters are based for all the staff at the Trust. Yeah, so here at Lower Smite Farm, the volunteers mainly get involved with our kind of practical habitat management, so helping us look after a nature reserve. So they'll do different sort of habitat management projects or habitat creation projects. So here we've got the orchard on our right. Last winter we spent quite a lot of time repairing the orchard guards. So they're there to protect the trees from sheep nibbling at the bark, and they'll also do a lot of our weekly maintenance as well. So we're walking along one of the nature trails now, and obviously this needs mowing, so the volunteers will do that for us. So I suppose the farm itself, we've got quite a lot of different habitats going on, so it's quite representative of a lot of our reserves. We've got an orchard, we've got woodland, we've got meadow, we've got some ponds. There's quite a lot of different habitats, so you can see a bit of everything when you visit, and the volunteers help us look after that. So the kind of volunteers that we get here at the farm are quite varied. We get a lot of people who've retired and they've got a real enthusiasm for nature and they want to get out and make a difference. We also, generally more in school holidays, we also get a lot of younger people who want to build up a bit of experience. They're thinking of going into conservation and they just want to see what sort of jobs are out there. Oh yeah.
We've just come across some mushrooms in a bit of a fairy ring. I don't know what they are.
No, nor do I. I need Jill.
They're so pretty.
Yeah. I mean, one of our volunteers, Jill, actually, she's gotten quite into her fungi identification.
Some more there, look.
It's a different sort, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Anyway, going back to volunteers.
Yeah, so some younger people as well, which is nice and keeps the group quite dynamic as well. And then one or two who fit volunteering alongside their work.
Yeah.
They just, again, like being outside, getting out in nature. It does a lot for people's well-being, I think.
So sort of thinking about the volunteers, what difference do the volunteers make to the work that you actually do here on the farm?
They make a huge difference. We definitely could not achieve not even half as much as we do if we didn't have those volunteers. So just in terms of this site, there's all sorts. I mean, we get contractors to do some of the work, like the hay cutting, but anything like hedge laying, hedge planting, it all comes down to the volunteers, really.
Yeah.
So I think in total the volunteers have probably planted about 4 hectares of woodland over the years that they've been going, which is about 17 years.
How many volunteers do you get on an average week?
An average week, about 8 volunteers, maybe a bit more, a bit less. Always depends on people's holidays and other commitments in life.
And the weather, I suppose.
Yeah, the weather. To be fair, they're very good. They do come out in all sorts of weather. Rain or shine, people are generally there. And people do like a nice little bonfire as well.
Yeah.
So in the winter months, that can make things a bit more inviting.
So do you operate all year round then with the volunteers? Yeah.
Yes, it's every week, and we generally only have Christmas off.
Yeah. So even if the weather's really cold and frosty, they're still out and you still get bodies turning up.
Yeah, as long as it's safe to drive and get to us, then we'll be operating. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
So for anyone thinking about joining as a volunteer, what can they expect to get out of giving their time?
Well, it really depends on what role a volunteer does, because it's not just practical habitat conservation. There's all kinds of roles that people can do to help the trust out. So with the practical conservation side of it, I think there's quite a lot of good things about fitness, getting out and being active.
Yeah.
You can actually see the results of what you're doing as well. So with practical habitat conservation, I think it's quite nice that you can coppice a woodland and then go back and slowly see the rewards.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some of the volunteers were saying to me about some of the hedges that they've done, that they did it sort of 3-4 years ago, and they keep going back and checking it out to see how it's growing, and they're amazed by the difference that it makes.
Yeah, that kind of rejuvenation of them, and it's really fast to happen after that. It's not an instant reward. You've got to wait a few seasons to see it. But
one of the ladies was saying that she's been volunteering for 16 years.
Yeah. Which is nearly as long as the group's been going.
Yeah, she said that the group's been going 17 years.
Yeah, it's our birthday this month actually.
Right.
Need to get a cake.
So 17 years, and she's been coming for 16.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I think people, what the longer term volunteers tell me is that the more you see the effects of what work you've been doing, like the hedge laying, I think the more kind of attached you get to a site.
Yeah.
You can see that kind of good impact of your efforts.
Right. So we're just standing in front of Midland Bullock Hedge.
Yeah.
This is all new, isn't it? It's not been...
Yeah, this we did last winter, this section.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference between what was done last year and what we're going to do this winter.
Yeah.
And how leggy that is. It's quite, gappy at the base. There's not a lot of shelter. And this has only had 1 year's growth, but it's already looking a lot better.
Yeah, it's filling the gaps in, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and again, done by the volunteers.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, it's quite a striking difference when you stand and look at them side by side. And when you say leggy, it's just, what's that, about 10, 12 feet tall?
Yeah.
And
it's planted probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Around about that time.
And you can see straight through to the other side because it's just lots of gaps. Whereas with this one that they've just laid, you can see the structure of it. Because I was with the group this morning and they were talking about digging out the poles and then getting the wrap for the top.
Yeah, so what we're compassing this morning will come up here and complete this section.
Right.
With stakes and binders.
So it's a lovely loop then.
It is, yeah.
A nice sustainable way of doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. So I suppose in a way then that getting involved in doing that, the people are connecting with the landscape. In actual fact, when we were having a cup of tea, which is a lovely side of the volunteering that I noticed, everybody getting together and having a warm drink halfway through the morning.
Yeah.
And everybody sitting and chatting. I noticed people were getting out guidebooks and talking about some of the things that they'd found.
Yeah, that's a regular thing.
Yeah. They were looking at fungi this morning, and they found a couple of fungi in the coppiced area where they were working, and they were trying to identify them, and they were saying that that's something that they would ordinarily probably wouldn't do if they were at home, but as they're out with a group and they've come across it, they're getting their collective heads together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really nice aspect of the group that we've got here. And there's a WhatsApp group as well, and pictures get posted through the week, and different people will suggest different identifications. And apps are quite good nowadays as well. So
yeah, I've got Merlin.
Yeah.
The Merlin app is brilliant. So I can see from my own personal experience that volunteering with the trustees it does start to get you more in touch with what's going on. I found from going out to some of the reserves when I've been out recording, I've spotted something and I've had to go home and find out what it was.
Yeah.
And got quite excited about it. And I think being immersed in the landscape is straight away it provides that stimulus.
Yeah, and that connection as well.
That connection, yeah. So is that sort of common to people who come and volunteer?
Yeah, I think very much so.
Yeah.
Like I said, the more people do and practical wise to look after a site, the more you can see the results of what you've done there and how it's helped wildlife and general habitat condition. So
so it's and some of them were saying that they take away some of the stuff that they've done here, and then they're applying it in their own gardens. And somebody was saying about working with a community group as well, so they go in and helping others. So they're taking the skills that they've learnt here and then distilling those skills out to others. Yeah,
and that's a lot about how volunteers can really kind of increase the Wildlife Trust impact.
Yes.
Out in the community. So each and every volunteer is kind of a spokesperson in a way. To do things and champion wildlife.
It's like the what they call it, the ripple effect, isn't it? So you like put a stone into a pond and then watching the ripples go out, and that's sort of how it starts, isn't it? You're in a way, the trust is kind of like the nucleus, the stone that's going into the pond, and then you've got all the volunteers then that disseminate that information out.
Yeah, and
to everybody else. So
I think numbers wise, we've got 450 volunteers. That's a lot of people able to do that ripple effect.
It is. This morning when I turned up at 9 o'clock, there was a lot of people piling into a minibus to go off somewhere, and that's the roving group, isn't it?
Yeah, the roving group.
So the roving group were all there getting ready to go out, and then of course you've got the trainees as well.
Yeah.
So it was a hive of activity in that yard this morning.
Yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays are busy ones. The roving group will go out to different reserves.
Yeah.
So they're not tied to one reserve, but lots of different ones. So if you want variety, that's a good one to go for.
So yeah, to sum it up then, we'd be lost without volunteers.
Yeah.
And they are the lifeblood of Worcestershire Wildlife Trust.
Yeah.
And I mean they're doing a fantastic job of supporting wildlife across the county.
Yeah, and from us it's sort of a massive thank you to each and every one of them.
Yeah.
And right from the start of Worcestershire Wildlife Trust, it was founded by volunteers, and it wasn't, and I think we founded in 1968 or something like that, and it wasn't until the 70s that we actually had any paid members of staff. So it was very much it started with volunteers, and we still depend on volunteers really.
Yeah. So lifeblood of the place.
Yeah.
So that's they're doing a fantastic job. I mean, I'm really impressed by what I've seen this morning. So that's great. Well, thank you very much for taking your time to talk to me.
Okay.
And hopefully I'll be able to catch up with a few more volunteers in different guises.
Yeah, different
roles, and see what people get up to. But it's been really enlightening. I've enjoyed my morning.
Good.
Getting wet. It's a bit damp underfoot today, so I've got slightly damp feet, but I've got a bigger smile, so that's good. So thank you very much.
Okay.
A big thanks to Jasmine. It was brilliant to hear just how much goes into supporting our farm volunteers and the difference they make out on the land. Now, I've just taken a walk across to the coppice across the way from the farm, and took the opportunity to talk to Rod, who'd recently retired, and instead of slowing down, he's thrown himself into conservation work with the Trust. And what struck me when we spoke is just how much joy and purpose he found in getting outdoors, meeting new people, and being part of something much bigger than himself.
Hi, I'm Rod, and I'm a farm volunteer and a roving volunteer for the Trust, and have been doing it about 18 months now. I'm recently retired, was a civil engineer on the design side, and approached retirement with some reticence about how I was going to fill my time. The Wildlife Trust attracts me and has been thoroughly satisfactory, or even better than satisfactory. It's been fantastic actually, because it's provided me with all sorts of rewards, not only being out in the countryside in a way that I possibly wouldn't otherwise, but it replaces the gap that I feared of the social aspect of work. I've had a lifelong interest in volunteering, and many years ago when my children were little was a school governor, and thought that this was something I definitely wanted to continue in my retirement. Specifically with regards to the Trust, it ticked a lot of the boxes, being something that met my interests and passion to look after the environment, and it was sparked when I went to an event at the cathedral a couple of Christmases ago. So I spoke with the engagement officer who was manning the stand at the time, and was put in touch with the volunteering section at the Trust. So this was slightly before I retired. I then put my name forward and started volunteering in the summer of 2024. My experience confirmed that this was the volunteering that I wanted to do in retirement, because I looked at another couple of opportunities that just didn't quite suit what I was trying to get out of it. What I was trying to get out of it was a replacement to the positive aspects of the social side of work, feeling that I was doing something worthwhile, and it gets me out and about in some lovely countryside, and Worcestershire's great because it's got so many hidden gems that you don't really know about even if you've lived here for years. Finally, it gets you, mentally and physically fit, because some of it's quite hard work, coppicing and which we are doing today, and the hedge laying that is the winter task, both proper physical tasks that are good for the body, and the whole experience is just so good for you mentally. It's just a positive experience. I can't overstate what it does for me. A typical day for me as a farm volunteer is very simple in its headline, in as much that I turn up, do something useful and go home feeling a better man. What that means in practice is that we get to the farm for about 9 o'clock, spend some time as a group deciding and agreeing who's going to do the tasks for the day, and those are varied partly by the demands of things like maintenance for the whole farm area and what needs our support for that, and also it's quite seasonal, as you'd probably expect. So we're in autumn now, and this is approaching the time of year where we're doing the more physical tasks. So today we're coppicing hazel to improve the variety of habitats available on the farm. Come the winter, we will be focusing on hedge laying, using some of the products from the coppicing, so reusing in a very sustainable manner the products of our hard work today. Come the spring, the focus changes more to what you might regard as more typical conservation tasks. We get involved in things like maintenance and surveying of the nest boxes around the farm. As the summer comes through, there are more wildlife surveys, so butterfly surveys, reptile surveys, grassland surveys, as well as regular maintenance tasks like mowing the nature trail and public footpath routes, so that it encourages people to use the site, but to keep people from disturbing the whole area, because humans and wildlife don't mix very well. I've always enjoyed Worcestershire and the countryside that it provides us, and always thought that we were very lucky in living here, because so much good stuff's on the doorstep. Volunteering has opened up a whole new window to layers of other things to enjoy, to add to the general experience of just going for a pleasant country walk. So some of my fellow volunteers are extremely knowledgeable about butterflies, insects, moths, etc. And whilst that isn't something that particularly floats my boat, just being introduced to the joy of walking through a field surrounded by butterflies and taking the time to enjoy that and just relax into the experience is something I would have never have done had I not volunteered. There's something absolutely brilliant about being in the sun on a nice warm summer day, just enjoying nature in all its glory. It also makes you realise how interdependent the ecology is of Worcestershire, and how much human activity has shaped it, most recently primarily for the ill, and how even nature reserves need an awful lot of helping hand to undo the past, primarily human, to create the varied habitats that we can enjoy. I've found volunteering for me personally has been transformative. At the start of 2024, I was still in a corporate job, overstressed, and newly diagnosed with diabetes. volunteering has helped transform my life so that both of these are problems of the past. Yes, I still have to look after my diabetes, but it's under control, and my mental health is just completely the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm just living the dream here. It's just fantastic. I cannot explain how good it has been for me. It's just absolutely brilliant. If anyone was to ask me should they volunteer for the Trust, I would unreservedly say yes. The opportunities that it gives people of all ages to gain experience, do something worthwhile, meet nice people, and just have a thoroughly enjoyable experience. I can't understate how much the Trust provides that. It's such a wonderful culture, welcoming in a way that in 40 years of work I never have come across something as welcoming as this. It's inclusive. You can do as much or as little as you wish to, are able to, and there is absolutely no judgment on you. Next week I won't be here at the farm because I'm visiting my daughter in Newcastle, and frankly, whilst I'll miss it, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment in that, so it doesn't impinge on other things that you have to or want to do in your life, and you can fit volunteering around other things, and that flexibility and the reward you get it are just fantastic. Just do it. Join us.
So that was great listening to Rod. You really get a sense of how powerful that connection to place can be. He's certainly got a satisfaction of rolling up his sleeves and getting stuck in and seeing the land respond. And it's a reminder that volunteering isn't just about giving your time, it's a way of sort of you putting things back, getting things back from it. But of course, not every volunteer is out in the fields. Some are all about watching, listening and noticing the wildlife that shares these spaces with us. So I took the time out to head over to Smythe Garden, where I sat down with Diana, one of our brilliant wildlife sightings volunteers. Her work helps the Trust understand what species are thriving, where they're turning up, and how habitats are changing. So if you've ever found yourself pausing to watch a bird or jotting down the butterflies in your garden, Diana's story might just spark some interest for you.
I'm Diana. I'm one of the volunteers who works for Wildlife Sightings.
Brilliant. So could you tell me a little bit about what being a Wildlife Sightings volunteer actually involves?
The Wildlife Sightings project is a project whereby members of the public are invited to come and fill in a form on the website to tell us about wildlife that they've seen in their garden or while walking the dog or when they're out and about somewhere. It's not complicated. It just requires you to say what you saw, where you saw it, and if you don't know what it is, to ask for help. What you do need to do is send us a photograph, which might have been difficult at one point, but now everybody has a mobile phone. Just send a photograph. It doesn't matter how blurry and awful. We can tell what it is usually.
Brilliant. So you've been a volunteer doing this right from the very beginning, and there are now 3 volunteers, am I right?
Yes, that's right. When I started, the form had been designed by Wendy and Nick at the Trust, but they just couldn't cope. It was just too popular. So my job really was to receive the forms by email, look at them, get back to the people who'd submitted a record and perhaps tell them what they found if they didn't know what it was, and put the details into a spreadsheet and then watch the records accumulate and then analyse them and see what the records were telling us about the wildlife in the county. And I was really helped in that by people in Worcester Recorders and in the Trust who are experts underpinning the project. So if there's anything that I can't recognise, I send the photograph to the expert and they'll tell me what it is, and then I can get back to the person submitting the record, I call them spotters, and tell them what they've seen.
Okay. So what inspires you to start volunteering with the Trust, and what do you like most about volunteering?
When my husband and I moved to Worcester in 2018, and I was looking for something to do as a volunteer in the wildlife sector, because I've always liked wildlife. As a little girl I used to keep tadpoles and whatnot, so I wanted to join the Trust. or the record centre. And during the pandemic, this project was just perfect. People couldn't get out and about very much. They went out once a day or they looked through their house windows. And Wendy and Nick designed the form so that people could tell us via email what they'd seen. And that was just perfect for me because I'm not particularly expert. The people who were submitting records are not particularly expert. And I enjoyed talking to them, I enjoyed engaging with them, I enjoyed emailing them and telling them what they'd spotted in their garden. I'm not afraid of data, and I didn't mind putting the data together in a spreadsheet, and I really enjoyed interacting with the experts because I learnt such a lot from them about the wildlife in Worcestershire submitted by the spotters.
Right, so it's basically what you could say then, that your motivation is the love of wildlife, and you've obviously previously volunteered in other parts of your life, and you were mentioning that it's sort of almost part of your lifestyle, volunteering.
Well, I think it actually is. I mean, like a lot of people in retirement, you find you've got a bit more time to do the things that you want to do. You no longer have to do quite so many things you don't want to do. And I really enjoy wildlife, but as a sort of amateur rather than a deep expert, I quite enjoy engaging with people, which was a surprise to me. And I just love the sense of achievement that people get when they see something different. We have some target species and we're monitoring those records, but people also like to tell me what they've seen. And I love that. They write an email and they say, look what I saw in my garden. What is it? I just find that really engaging.
Yeah, okay. So how does the data that you collect as a sightings volunteer contribute to the Trust's sort of wider conservation work? I know you've mentioned sort of target species.
Yeah, that's right. I suppose there are 3 areas. We had originally 6 target species and now we've got 15. And we invite people to send in records of these species whenever they see them. And we've now been going about 6 years and we've accumulated quite a lot of records, certainly for things like mistletoe, which is one of our target species. And we can map them. We can get a really good feel for how these are distributed in Worcester. And equally importantly, we can see what happens for some of the species year on year. So who are the winners, who are the losers each year? I mean, a classic example I was saying earlier was the ladybirds this year. It was obvious that the ladybirds were having a really good year. By the end of May, beginning of June, I had more ladybird records than I'd had in the previous 4 years. I knew, and I was able to put it into the e-newsletter, which is another thing that the Trust can use this project to help. It's just a general engagement and letting people know what the Trust is up to, because everybody who submits a record has the opportunity to join a monthly e-newsletter in which I tell them what they've been seeing and how great they've all been, which is always true, and the Trust in it can tell them about what their initiatives are and what they would like people to think about in the immediate future. And I suppose the other thing that I've noticed is the records that come to wildlife sightings, because they come from members of the public, and they generally don't come from reserves and special scientific interest areas, they tend to come from people's back gardens, behind the bus stop, back of a pub, while walking the dog. And these are areas that the Trust doesn't normally get a lot of records from. So we're able to see how the wildlife of the county are using these areas, these non-nature areas, as part of their resource. And it's huge, because the areas are much bigger than set-aside areas, and the wildlife are using them. Garden ponds are supporting frogs, bird feeders are supporting all of our natural bird life. And this is really underpinned by the wildlife sightings, because people tell us. They tell us what they've done and how proud they are and what's come to their garden, and it's brilliant.
That's amazing. So, have you had any memorable wildlife encounters while recording sightings, or have you had something that's really stood out for you?
Well, there have been quite a few. I've been very struck by people's ability to know that something is odd or unusual or rare. And we've had quite a few rare insects that have been recorded by spotters who see something in their garden and they just know it's unusual. We had a couple of really rare ichneumon wasps, big colourful things, where there'd been no previous records in Worcester and maybe only a handful in the whole of the United Kingdom ever. So that was pretty impressive. We've had really odd sightings. So one very early record was of a purple emperor, a very rare moth, that landed on somebody's hat in their garden. And the gentleman took a photograph of his wife's hat with the purple emperor sat on it. That's one of my favourites. We've had night herons, and this year glossy ibis in Croom Lake. That was unusual. Quite a few otters, muntjac deer in people's gardens. They're not very popular. And perhaps one of the nice things, this time last year, I got a record from a chap who wrote in. He said he thought he'd seen signs of beaver activity on the Droitwich Canal. And I thought to myself, well, this is a bit improbable. But looking at the photograph, he looked to be absolutely right. And I pigged the photograph across to all the experts who all agreed that this was definitely a beaver. And we subsequently learned that there is indeed a beaver in the Midlands whose origin is a little obscure, but he fetches up, especially in winter. So keep an eye open, you might see cheese nibbled by beavers.
I love that. I love the thought of a beaver being on the canal in Worcestershire, literally in between two built-up areas.
Yeah.
That sort of harks back to the previous two podcasts where we've talked about wildlife corridors and how, I've looked at Green Farm and how that's a corridor in the rural environment. We looked at the city on the last podcast where I went to Heart of Worcester College. So I'm just loving the fact that there are beavers, and now I want to go out and go see if I can see it.
Every time I go to Droitwich now, I'm driving along looking, but he's probably long gone now.
Yeah, probably. So finally, what advice would you give someone who is thinking of volunteering with Worcestershire Wildlife Trust?
Do it. Do it straight away before you change your mind. It's good fun, and you're doing something worthwhile, but mainly it's good fun.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much, Diana.
Cheers.
It was lovely talking with Diana. You can really hear how much those everyday wildlife sightings matter. It's that sort of quiet, careful noticing that helps us understand the bigger picture of nature in Worcestershire. But volunteering with the Trust can take on many different forms, and our next guest is a brilliant example of that. Chris has been with the Trust for more than 15 years, and he's still only in his mid-20s. He's done a bit of everything over the years, from building bird boxes, helping out on committees, taking on admin jobs, and getting involved with projects up in the northern part of our county. You could say that he's sort of grown up with the Trust in many ways, and his enthusiasm is absolutely infectious. So let's hear from Chris about what keeps him coming back.
Hello, I'm Chris, and I've been a volunteer for the Worcestershire Wildlife Trust now for around 15 years. I joined doing sorts of voluntary out at reserves, so started at Chancewood, doing things like putting up nesting boxes, that kind of thing. And then over time that changed to doing more voluntary up at the reserves that we've got up at Clent, so that was up at Pen Orchard. I was there for a few years actually, more or less through college, through uni. It's a nice way to get out in the outdoors. And then since then I've become a committee member for the Stourbridge and Hagley local group, so working with sort of a wider team there to organise indoor meetings and the smooth running of them. So I've had a few different roles over the years.
Wow, yeah, and you were telling me that you've been with the Trust for 15 years.
Yeah, so more or less just short of half my life really. Yeah, doing a few different things, but yeah, definitely enjoy it.
Amazing. Okay, so for anybody that was listening, could you tell me a little bit about your journey with WWT? I mean, where did it all begin?
So I started first of all to attend the indoor meetings for the Stourbridge local group, I suppose, and attended those. And then since then, kind of I decided to try a bit of the volunteering, sort of outdoors, the outdoor groups. And so that started at Chancewood and really enjoyed that. And then over time decided to try the ones at Pen Orchard because they were launching sort of new projects at Pen Orchard, new things to do there. And then I suppose about 5-6 years I was doing that when I could, around kind of my studies at uni. And then when I graduated and went off into the world of work, obviously can't always do things in the week, so I decided to get more involved with the committee meetings that I was, and I suppose the local group committee for Stourbridge, because I was still attending the meetings, so I felt that was a good way to continue volunteering. And I've been doing that for, I suppose, about 2-3 years now. Yeah.
Wow. So what do you do with the committee? What's your role?
So it's quite a varied one, obviously, because it's a there's only a few of us that do different things, so we share out the responsibilities. So get involved with things like sorting out all the refreshments, serving people who are sort of bringing in donations, things to sell as well, helping with the admission, setting the room up, meeting the guest speakers, things like that. So it's quite a varied role, which is what I like, because it's kind of something different every time.
Yeah.
And it's a nice way to network, meet people as well.
Awesome. So what motivated you to get involved with WWT?
So I was keen to get voluntary experience, first of all. I've got a real keen interest in wildlife, which I suppose was the main reason for doing it. And I was aware of kind of the work of the Worcestershire Wildlife Trust, everything that they do. So I wanted to get involved, do some volunteering. I thought this is a great way to do something that I really enjoy as well, because I think that was a big part of it. So I'd say that was probably the biggest motivation. And kind of, I knew a few people already that were volunteers, so I wasn't going into a room kind of not knowing anybody, as it were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably the main reason.
Right. So what do you enjoy most about volunteering with the Trust?
It's a couple of things, really, I suppose. I like getting out in the great outdoors, so we've got some fantastic kind of countryside, fantastic wildlife on the doorstep in Worcestershire, so it's a great way to get out and see that as well, because I think often you don't realise what there is on the doorstep until you kind of stood out there seeing it.
Yeah.
So especially for the sort of the outdoor work, that's the main kind of thing for that. But overall of it, I think it's a great way to meet people that have got a common interest on something as well. So we've got to know more and more people over the years kind of doing that volunteering in different roles. And it's nice to kind of see them, get to know them. You get a real bond, a real friendship with people from all different walks of life with that one interest.
Yeah, I think, I mean, from my experience, it's, I found that just being amongst people, I've got an interest in wildlife, and just being around different people and extending your social circle a little bit tends to widen your perspective on the world a little bit as well. I mean, I kind of always liked wildlife, but I never really, I think, acknowledged the fact that I was into it until I started to volunteer with people and spend time with people at the Trust. And going out and doing interviews and things like that, and it's and actual fact, I've had some really, really good experiences. This year has been amazing. I mean, I've been out to some of the sort of far-flung reserves, and I've seen kingfishers in the wild. I've seen otters in the wild, and these are things I would never have ever dreamed of.
Yeah, exactly. You especially when you're out and about with those groups of people and you have those conversations. I've been on sort of guided walks on everything from kind of fungi to kind of, in trees to kind of the wildflowers and all sorts of other wildlife as well. We've done all sorts of things about butterflies, fascinating walks about things like that, and moth walks and bat walks, things like that. It's all sorts of different things, but then you get everybody who's got an interest in different things coming together and seeing that, which I think is fantastic. Okay,
so, I mean, what's this is a quick one really. What is the species that stands out the most for you that you've seen in person?
I've got to admit, I really, really enjoy kind of looking at fungi and mushrooms and things like that. And I remember, we've been on a couple of sort of guided walks now especially within local reserves in the Trust, and seeing all the different varieties and things like that in person as well. Because again, you see things in books, you see things in guides, but seeing all of that and realising it's actually on your doorstep. And it's the same with the wildlife as well, and seeing things like butterflies and moths and things like that you don't always kind of see out and about, especially when you're out and about normally kind of in your life doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
It's when you kind of have time to stop and focus on that. I think it's amazing to see what we've got just on our doorsteps.
Brilliant. Okay, last one really. What advice would you give anybody thinking about joining Worcestershire Wildlife Trust as a volunteer?
I'd say to definitely have a go, definitely get involved. Try something at first, even if you just, try one of the outdoor volunteering groups or go to one of the local group meetings. It's a great way just to try things and get to know people. I've always found them really welcoming. They're always happy to meet new people. And you can try things, see if you like it, try different things. But I like the fact that you can get involved in as much or as little as you like, especially with the volunteering. It really works for me. I can do it around working full time, and I've still got it fits in my diary really well with other things that I've got going on. And it's that flexibility that I think is really good. You get to talk about things you really enjoy, but again, it's on your terms. It's no massive time commitments if you don't want it. It's as much or as little as you want to get involved.
Amazing. Well, thank you very, very much, Chris. Really appreciate you talking to us. And hopefully the listeners will be rushing to sign up.
Let's hope so.
That's great. Thank you. And that brings us neatly to the end of today's journey through the world of volunteering here at Worcestershire Wildlife Trust. We've heard from Jasmine about how farm volunteers are supported, from Rod about finding purpose and joy in conservation after his retirement, from Diana about the value of simply noticing the wildlife around us, and from Chris, who's practically grown up with the Trust. And we've heard from all of them about the many ways in which you can get involved. Currently there are around 450 volunteers supporting the Trust, and they are absolutely vital to everything that happens, from hands-on conservation work to office admin to education, events, even communications. Whatever your skills or interests, there truly is something available for everyone. And from my own experience, I can say it's incredibly rewarding to be part of it. This is our last full episode before Christmas, but don't worry, we'll be back with a festive special where we catch up with some of the team just before the Christmas break. And if today's conversations have inspired you, head over to the Worcestershire Wildlife Trust website to find out more about volunteering. So thank you for listening, and until the next time, this has been Wild Worcestershire and I've been Lee. So take care, and I shall see you soon.